we should be able to transition. Oh, look at that, pro. Right, let's have a look at this. Yes, well, afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Just trying to resolve a couple of issues that have popped up in the forums since releasing 21D. The colour was one of them. It seemed that if you'd made an adjustment to this, let's make a drastic adjustment. If you hit cancel, it wouldn't recover properly. And even if you had a different thing in here and you'd saved it, then you went into cancel again, it restored like the default one. So I think that might be resolved. I'll have to do some more testing after the end of the stream, but yeah. Let me just compile this version because this is essentially 21D 2. So we'll make a change to the actual number here. So 21D2. We will compile it for 64. Was there anything else I wanted to do quickly? Yeah, bring the window to the front. I'll do that after though. Let's just build this. Yeah, apologies for this. It's sort of, I wasn't expecting to get into the coding so quickly after the release, but I should have realised that things might have popped up. So I'm just basically going into my source here, which will be the compiled version. Release, sorry, x64 release. Copying all that. I should write a script to do this, the amount of times I actually do it. Replacing everything in my install, which is what you guys do when you get the zip down. Right, so yes, we'll have a quick run through of 21D so that we can have a look at the band stack system, how that has changed slightly, especially with the sorting. Differences. Let me just pop out the chat a minute. No, I can't do that. I hit the drop down and it literally doesn't render the contents of it. Pop out chat. Oh, this probably break everything. Right, that's that. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to test on this. Test 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's working. Right. Yes, so this is 21D, so D2. So this will be going up when I've done a bit of testing this evening, so it'll probably be an hour or two after the stream end. There was one issue which was resolved relating to locked VFO. So you lock a VFO by clicking up there, of course. And when you PTT or MOX, when it came out of there, it would re-enable this incorrectly. So that's resolved. And the other problem was the color gradient stuff that popped up as an error in the forums. So we make a change there, we hit cancel, it should go back to what we had. If we change this to like a blue, and then change all this to blue, hit OK, right, that's saved. But if we go into here now and hit default, for instance, and then cancel, goes back to your blue. I noticed that it does make the change to the render straight away, but that's just the way that the data gets from here to the display engine. Not a lot I can do about that. Literally, if you make an adjustment here and let go, I could have something which stores a copy and only the display uses it when it's you hit OK or something. But I think it's nice to be able to see what's going on as you make adjustments. So yeah. Right, let's get on to the meat and potatoes of the stream. Hopefully audio and all that sounding okay. And the position of the thing in OBS is right. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, right. Band stack. Previously, it was a very intertwined solution in Thetis. Every single one of these buttons had a bunch of code. Literally, every single one had the same chunk of code, 10, 15 lines repeated. And it was pretty awkward to maintain. That has all changed. So behind each one of these buttons now, there's one line of code. And the band stack system listens for those button presses, basically. You get to the band stack, of course, by clicking on the number, or you can click on this band stack text. Now I've added it to that to make it a bit bigger. And it operates in the usual way. You've got your options to expand it up here, and you've got an always on top option. Something that came up was, if you haven't got that on, and you're like that, there is no way at the moment you can click on this stuff, but it doesn't bring it to the front. So that's something that I will sort out in a bit. Let's just shove that to one side. See, it actually made it quite awkward to get it back there. So yeah, I'll sort that out after. You've got this always on top option as well, which of course does keep it on top. So yeah, and it works in the same way. You can hit the same band, and you cycle through. You can hold Shift, and it'll go the other way. And if you're on that slot there, and you retune in any way, be it a click tune or a cycle through the VFO like so, then you move to another entry in the band stack by clicking on that or clicking on one of these. That entry there, 094, will replace 085. So if I was to click on 20 meters, it would move to 145. And the 94 is now inserted over the top of that. So that's the way that works, which you're used to. What is different now is that this is fully sorted all the time. So if, for instance, you're on that slot of 145, and you had moved the VFO down to 0.74, and of course we need to change the frequency, so we're at 0.74. If we were to move off this slot now, 145 will become 0.74, but 0.74 is below 0.94, so this slot will look as if it moved there, and there will. And we need to move to 154.473 when we hit this, when we hit 20 meters, or if we were to click. So what will happen is when we hit this, we'll move to 473, but this entry will renumber to 074. It will, the blue bar will look correct because we'll move on to the next one, and there'll be two previous to us, so it will look correct. It looks kind of weird when if we're on this one, for instance, and we, well, let's pick this one. If we're on this one, for instance, and we change it to, well, say we're on 14, 154 dead. Okay, so interesting. I can't put another decimal in there, which is weird, but yeah, so I'm going to tune to 154 dead, 14, 154 dead. So it's going to actually insert between 94 and 154. So this entry is going to move to there. And we're going to move up here. So it's all going to sort of shift around. So yeah, and some odd things can look like they're happening there, but believe me, it'll move to the right to the next one correctly. It might look like the blue bar hasn't moved because things have fallen down into the slot and vice versa. So yeah, but I have tested that quite a lot, and it does Does seem to work quite nicely. You can move through, of course, with left click in and shift left click in. You can also, if you're at a new frequency, say 14.123, you can control click on 20 meters and it will add 123 in the right place. So if we were to go to 14.300 and we wanted a new entry for that, control click and boom, it's on the end. So yeah, that's all implemented. You can lock these so they never get updated. So if we were to now move to 14.35, of course we're out of band there, so that would look somewhat weird. 14 decimal, where we go, 3.1. So as you notice, it didn't do anything to that. And if we cycle now, yeah, it won't update. So yeah, locked is locked basically. You can also set a band to have a specific return point. So if we always want to come back to 14.300, we can do that. So we can cycle around as normal, end up on there, go to 40, back to 20, and we're on that one with the green dot, which is the specific entry option. And then we have return to a last frequency mode, which is quite handy for things like 60 meters. If we change to America, something to notice is that pops up when you hover over these. Changing this will reset all band stack entries. That was how it was, and that's how it is at the moment. So if you change your country or your extended state, then all band stack entries are cleared. And as you notice, we've switched to the American slots here, and we can cycle through as you'd expect. And they're pre-locked, but you can unlock them now. So you can unlock them, change their modes, change their zoom positions, you know, you name it, it'll change when it's unlocked. But this return to last use frequency mode, of course, if all these are locked and then you retune somewhere, say there, when you come back to this band, it will have to go back to one of these, the old system would always go back to one of these entries. Well, it would do that once it was fixed. It would actually overwrite a locked entry, the old implementation. And then there was a problem for people that wanted to return to a band, say, that they'd configured with 2 beacons, but they tune around to perhaps a 3rd beacon, which isn't in the list. And then when they come back to that band, once I fixed the lock code, it wouldn't actually update, so they would never return to where they were last listening at. So this option allows you to do that. For this stack now, say we're up there, that sort of zoom, that sort of position, and we've got nothing to update yet. If we go back to like 40 and back to 60, because it's returned to last position, it's put us back there, set the zooms and all that stuff. So that's how that works. And as you notice, nothing is selected. But if you were then to hit on 60 meters, it would then pick the top one and move down. So that's that. There is an option. I don't know if I've got it set up on here. I think it might be M. Yes. M and N is the, I don't know if there's a config for the key or anything on this, but M and N will step through your entries in your band stack, and it will go to the band up as well. So if you go to that one and then do N, it will drop down. So you can literally go through the entire HF range band stack with that. Yeah, afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are, Ruben. Afternoon, I guess, is it in the States now? Or perhaps late morning. Yeah, so you can use M and N as well for that. And of course, left click on a band and shift left click. Adding new entries, you can do it with the control click, as I said. If you go to like 14.2, of course, it will change the band stack system, the band stack window on the fly. So if we get to the edge of a band, say, and we drag, it will automatically flick between the relevant entries. And if we use transverters, have I got? Yeah, I've got 3 dummy ones set up on here. If we go VHF 23 sems, there's no entries, and it's put us at 0, 0 because it literally doesn't know where to go. If you, I think, if you tune somewhere in, say, 23 sems, and then leave the band, it would return to where you tuned, even if you had none of these, as long as you had that left on. But of course, if we want to add something in here, we can just go to the frequency, whatever, and we can hit add. What I haven't tested is maybe a gotcha is actually clicking on this. Oh no, yes, that's working. So yeah, and it notices mode change, of course. So if we're in upper sideband on 1252, then we went down to 1250, we change to upper sideband there. And it's changed that number because although, yeah, it's because of the CW offset shift. I may have to look at that to take that out when I store it in there. So that might be something we need to look at. Because ideally you wouldn't want that number to be like that, would you? So yeah, need to maybe look at that. So those are those. Of course, you've got a WWV, which you can cycle through, and you've got your shortwave listening stuff as well. So I think that pretty much covers the band stack changes in 21D. What else can we look at while we're here? The implementation of the N1MM spectrum data. So if you enable one of these, an N1MM little flag will appear down on the status bar. So either one of those and it'll appear. If we quickly start up N1MM, and we, I'll just put it off to one side there a minute, the actual windows. But these are the two spectrums from N1MM. Don't know if there's a way to say always keep on top on this. I couldn't permanently, no. So yeah, if we, let me just resize this so it's not, we can actually see what's happening. That's trying to connect to my radio, which doesn't have a COM port set up on it at the moment. So yeah, there we go. So there's the two windows, right? There's the two spectrums from N1MM, and as you notice, nothing's coming through on there. Let's go back to 20 and zoom in a bit. If we tell Thetis to output data to N1MM, it then appears. And it is a representation of what you can see in Thetis will be sent over to N1MM on both receivers if you had two running. And it uses the zoom, so it's basically everything that you see in Thetis is what you can see in here. You can't see any more or any less as it happens. Yeah. And you can alter the scale. So if we want to change the scale of this, we can just up this number here, and it will increase that, and we can specify the number of updates per second up to a maximum of 8. So that's the N1MM integration in 21D. You can, I'm directing it here at my own PC. local host, you could put like broadcast in there, so every PC on your subnet would get it. And that is the port. I need to put a default button here, which will reset that if like you forget. But yeah, you can see that it actually updates straight away as well. So if we were to change this to 3, back to 4. So yeah, it's quite easy to use for those that use N1MM for contesting and whatnot. And of course, when you set up the CAT links, you can click on that spectrum and have it retune your VFO as you'd expect. Let's just reposition this a minute. Slightly off on the stream. That's the only problem with this setup at the moment. It's not very intuitive. Right, so yes, what else can we quickly look at that was changed in here? There's lots of fixes, of course. The main, yeah, one of the things was the ADC problem. Now, I haven't actually talked to Warren or Doug about this issue to find out if it was actually an issue. But when I was looking through the code, there are 3 versions, or 2, well, we'll say 2 versions of step attenuator setting, and they each applies to ADC 0 and ADC 1. And the problem was, if for instance you had receiver 1 set to use ADC 2, it would actually apply if you change the attenuation here, it would actually apply it to ADC 0. And vice versa on receiver 2. It was a definite problem. It looked like it was working because the offsets were actually applied to the waterfall and the pan adapter correctly. You know, the update offset was happening, but it wasn't actually attenuating the correct ADC. So yeah, very interesting. Now, if you're on the same ADC, if you go into options, this appears ADC linked. And of course, I've implemented this stuff for the second receiver. So you get this ADC linked mode if your ADCs are the same. So in some setups, you've only got 1 aerial, but you want to have the option to have 2 showing. So you set your ADC the same. And this puts it into this, what I've classed as a linked mode. So if you change an attenuation on either of these, it will affect the other one as well. Something I've added as well, if you hold control down on these sidebars, it will link them together. So the numbers from the one will be sent to the other and vice versa. You can always get them the same, and it'll work with the right click as well. Yeah. So that's that. We're of course on 2 different bands, so we're looking at different values there. I was a bit concerned that they were different, and then I realised we were on 20 meters, 20 meters. So if I hold control down now, so yeah, they're the same. And we could sync these as well. Oh yeah, it's that's interesting. Yeah, we're in. Yeah, we were actually in a C tune mode there, and it had put like technically right. If you're in C tune mode and you put one there, one here. It should realign them as you expect, because there is an option now in here, link C-tune mode. So if you turn that off, you can have a separate, of course, that's acting as normal, 2 C-tunes. If I link them, you'll see this when it's out of sync like this. So the top receiver is in a different place to the bottom one in terms of center, but the tune is the same. So if I'm over that CW signal there, that just disappeared, or that carrier there or whatever, you'll see that receiver 2 is moving the same. If you click off C-Tune, of course, on only on receiver 1, because I've got this turned off, I can move this and it will move the tune point of receiver 2, which, you know, you're looking at that and there's the CW and there's the CW, so it is correct. Most people will probably use it with this C-Tune link mode on. So it essentially links them together, and they're out of step there because they haven't had a chance to realign because you're in this C-Tune mode. So yeah, that's quite interesting. Let me just minimize that on the secondary screen. Right, so that's that. I want to put an option in here. Where is it? Display RX1. Yeah, I need to have a checkbox in here somewhere where it says use this data on RX2. So that if you were in this linked mode, you could turn that on and never have to worry about setting up RX2. It would always be the same as RX1. Yeah, I know you can do it now with this new control feature in here. But it won't do it, of course, if you come in here and set it by hand. No, if you do that, of course, if you hit cancel now, boom, I'll unset that. But if you change this here, so change it up there and hit cancel, it doesn't reset. So that's that. Okay, that's new for 21D as well. Looking to see what else we have. Let me just start up the notes for the change log. Yes, there was a little issue reported last night when we were on stream about the SWR forward SWR meter, and the number was cropped off at the top, so I've moved those down slightly. You know, it's I could thin this line as well, but that was just an easy fix, just to drop that down a bit so it's not cut off. Yes, tuning as well. The band edges are, let's put it back into UK mode, might be a good idea. The band edges are, can be tuned right up to the edge of. So if we're at 14.0, previously I don't think you could tune it. It would come up with saying you're out of band essentially. And now it will let it happen right on the edge. Of course, I've shifted down a bit in this view because you know, it's the tone offset, so we're actually at 14.0 dead there. If I go to 1 hertz below, then I get the problem, and that existed for CW, I do believe. When I was looking at the code, it was applying the shift to the frequency after it had worked out if the frequency was out of band. So you could technically, if you were right at the edge, and it let you transmit, you could have potentially put a signal out of band right on the edge. So that's fixed now. It applies the shift before it checks whether or not you're in or out of band. So that was a change. A lot of issues with the border sizes of Windows. They seem to have changed it to include a drop shadow, which was a right pain in the backside to get around. But that is resolved, hopefully. Let's have a quick look if anything else, of interest to those that weren't around yesterday for the stream. We've also got, if I go to a local radio station here, AM, we zoom up a bit. If we, if for instance we were off a bit like that, and you wanted to use the 0 beat thing, it wouldn't actually work before, but now it's working wherever you are. It's actually quite interesting using it on an area which hasn't actually got much of a peak, because it tends to try and find them after a while. It sort of moves towards the high spot. It's quite interesting. But I'm going to do some work on using the blob system, which is going to be called markers. This is actually running a new algorithm now that I put in, I think, in 21 C, C perhaps, or B. But it seems to be a lot better than it used to be at finding peaks and whatnot. So yeah, it seems quite good. So I want to add in a sort of spectrum analyzer type functionality where you can add fixed frequency markers and then tell that marker to look left for the negative 3 dB point and right for the negative 3 dB. Stuff like that. So and delta dBms and you know, delta frequencies and all that stuff. So that is something I want to add. As is a little control panel. I don't know where it's going to fit yet. Which, when enabled, and you come into setup, you'll be able to put it into a mode which will highlight anything in setup that it can contain. So a little control. Say there was a little widget down here somewhere, and you set an option on it to say highlight setup options. Well, for instance, it would highlight this enabled thing for peak blobs, and you'd be able to add that into the widget. And then when you clicked on that button, or that whatever I implement it, it would essentially do the same as clicking that. So you can bring features that are hidden away in setup and in the system to this sort of hot button bar thing that you can configure to your own needs. So yeah, that is on the plan to do. So that should be quite good. Right. Not sure what else that we can look at in 21D. It was a lot of coding for not a lot of changes on the front end, but a lot in the back end. Of course, the band stack system doesn't really work like a band stack anymore. It is more like a filter system, which is why this says filter here. If you can imagine, all the entries are in a big flat table, essentially. And when you apply a filter, and this one is defined as only give me entries that have been tagged as 20-meter band entries, there's no frequency limit or anything on it. You could create a filter which is a top end of 20, which would have anything tagged with 20 meters within a specific frequency range. Or you could have a filter which says give me all frequencies in the flat table that are in frequency range A to B, frequency range C to D, and that sort of thing. So it's very flexible in the back end, what you can achieve with it. I had to do fixed bands for these buttons because it would make no sense to you know, have things that are not designed to go on 20 meters in there as a result. So yeah, it'll be quite flexible in the future. We'll be able to have things like a sub mode on DigiL, which will give you a band stack, say, for all your FT8 or all your RITI or your Olivias or your PSK band stack. And when you put it into this sub mode, each time you click in DigiL with sub mode PSK32, for instance, it would cycle through your PSK32 only frequencies. So that should be quite nice. I need to start work on the filter manager, because there's a button that sits down here which will allow you to manage all these filters and change them to what you want. So that should be quite good. I'm not sure any other radios kind of really do that. So it'll be quite a nice little thing to have on here. And if, for instance, you're only a data operator, for instance, then you know, or even only a CW operator, there may be reason to change this default 20-meter button to be 20-meter CW. Which has a filter on mode as well, because you can filter on band, frequency, mode, and submode at the moment. So yeah, that should be quite good. Should be quite good. I'm just trying to think 21D what we could talk about in here. Yeah, we've not looked at this yet. So there are a couple of gotchas with this spot system at the moment. The spotting window, which everything runs from, is created in the background when Thetis starts up, which it wasn't previously. It only got created when you clicked on spot. And the reason it is created in the background is so that we can use all the code that's related in here, but we can reconnect at startup if we you know, have that ticked on. The thing to remember is at the moment, even if track is off here, but you turn sun tracking on, that will actually run all the code and the grey line calculation code, even though it's not displayed. So that's something that needs to change. So I don't really use that track system with the picture of the, you know, the planet, the Earth on. So I just keep all that turned off. And if I was using one of these, of course, then I could reconnect at startup. You have to have previously connected to one of these successfully before reconnect at startup will work next time when you relaunch. So if you just click on that and never been there for a while, then you have that turned on, it might not connect. So that's just something to be wary of. And the European spotters are only option. So we tried to create a big filter to get the whole European tagged countries in there. So hopefully that is like 99.9% right. But my preferred method of filtering is an external program, like the client from VE7CC, and then feed the data into Thetis and use the external program to do all the filtering, because they're far more flexible. But simplistic filtering, then yeah, can use that. So that's that. I changed all the. I forget who this was from. Are you in the stream at the moment? Who's mentioned all this? Change all the colours and all this stuff. I had a big. I'd have to dig it out of my emails, but I'm useless with remembering names and call signs and stuff. I can't remember who it came from, but even down to changing the text colour on the bar there, so it wasn't that nasty dark blue that they couldn't hardly see. So yeah, and fixing all this connect disconnect code. So that's all pretty much resolved. Some of that happened in 21C, of course. Right, yeah, there was a crash issue which could happen in N1MM if you were using that in the Focus Master mode. I've wrapped all that with some error handling, so it should be okay. And a bunch of other minor fixes. Something to look at if you've got different radios is the firmware area now. If you're on Protocol 2, it will actually tell you the version of Protocol 2 that your firmware is running, and this relates to there's a document on Tapper GitHub which defines all these different versions, and it's changed to a 3-digit firmware version. Rick is putting all those new firmware versions in. Yeah, it probably was you, Ernst. Yeah, yeah, probably. But yeah, worthwhile changes for sure. So that's the firmware changes. And there's been some alterations as well with the if you had previously used any of these buttons here, and then you went into mock, so they were disabled. They were all a different sort of grey colour where you'd been. So that's resolved for you, Ernst. And so is the mute background colour up there. Because I think if you change the background colour on, where are they? I can never find it. There's so much stuff in here. VFO, here you are, background. Oh, there's a couple there that I need to do by the look of it. Ernst. Jeez. I knew I should have checked this. But yeah, okay, I'll have a look at that. Annoying, but there we are. Right, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it, unless you got some specific things you want to ask about in here. In 21D, we've got highlighting of this now, this feature, plus the decimal points are in line. So that's all in there. What else? Yes, you can have a different line on your appearance receiver display. You can, when that ticked on, it's using gradient for the line. So I tend to like running it with slightly thicker line and a fairly yeah, a fairly non-transparent data line, which gives a nice sort of outline to it. But you can run it using the single color line on there as well, which is that option. And it looks quite interesting when you go to if you turn general, what was it, appearance filled. I can never find this. Stuff is in different places. We could do with appearance receiver display. Where's the filled? Where's the filled fill adapter? See, it's in there. Oh, okay. For some reason, it's in the area which is related to refresh rates, which of course it does have an impact on, but it's not the place where it should sit, to be honest. But yeah, it's quite interesting when you run it in that mode without a like with a thicker line. So yeah, that's and then of course we got, yeah, that's what I was going to show you. If I turn on track mode, so we should technically have the background earth there, but it's not on because that's set. And maybe I need to. Sun tracking turns it on, does it? Or I don't know what turns that on. Oh, there we go. Perhaps only if, yeah, if only those actually have to be on before that shows. Interesting. You can go into appearance here, display RX1. Is it yes, opacity for your waterfall. You want to be able to still see the waterfall a bit and still see the background, you can now do that as well. That's another thing that was added, just a little graphical tweak. I turn all this stuff off, and I tend to run it with. It's just being called a minute. 2 seconds, guys. Just going to mute this. Yeah, it's just my brother to say there was a delivery at the door. Yes, so yeah, quite interesting changes. I will fix the few things that are on the list and release a 21D later on this evening after I've had some supper. So keep an eye out for that later or tomorrow. I would like to have a profile system in this as well, where you could set up different profiles and just flip straight between them, and all the graphics and everything would change, and the colors, you know. But Maybe tied to skins as well. Who knows? But that would be a bit of an undertaking. The amount of things that are actually changeable. So yeah. Right, anybody else got anything we want to ask about in the stream? Because I think we're probably coming to an end. Just a quick look. That ADC link thing, of course, occurs if you have 2 in step attenuate mode as well. So you can move either and it will move either. And you can do it here too. So yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on. And of course, radios, 10s, 10Es, 100s, 100Bs use a different set of DDCs. So that might be an issue going forward. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Just trying to remember where I get the line width down. It's in here, isn't it? Yeah. Set that back to what I normally run it at, about 1.4 or so. So I'm not sure there's anything else to cover really. The one thing I would say that I think there was a fix or a change related to altering these filters for var1 and var2 by using a mouse. Previously you had to give each one of those focus before they would work. So if this one was focus and you mouse wheel this one, the number would change, but it wouldn't actually apply it. Now it applies it whatever, if it's got focus or not. As you can see, the bottom of the low part is moving and the top part is moving. However, due to the way it's been implemented, it is quite a sluggish, slow bit of code. So if, like me, you've got one of these mice that you can spin the wheel on, I've spun it, yet nothing's updating there, yet the thing's changing, and then it finally does. So just keep an eye on that. It's something that I will have to rework, just the way it's been implemented. Essentially, that value is changing. It's just a round. Oh, that's interesting. Where's that configure window gone? Wait for that to be reported. By the look of this, the configure window is not showing. Unless I'm not seeing it. It's on another monitor, is it? No, I'll have to look at that. So we'll add that to the notes as well. That is definitely not appearing. I didn't change any of that. So yeah, I'll have a look at that as well while I'm at it this evening. But the reason why it's a bit slow, I was going to say, was because the update of this tells the configuration window to update, which tells this to update, and it goes round and around in a circle for a while until all the numbers become equivalent, I think, and then it stops. But it's not really what we want to happen. So there we are. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Any other questions or anything in the stream, in the chat that you want to look at? Failing that, I'll probably round off there and carry on with the fixes and get this 21D out. Look at that window as well, where the heck that's going. It's probably on my other monitor, buried in the other windows. So there we are. Right, yo chaps, well, cheers for joining me on here. And hopefully that has covered some of the things. Just bear in mind that, of course, this is auto-sorted, so things may move around as you're not quite expecting them to. But as long as you move to the next frequency, that's all that really matters. See how that moved around there? Because the one it updated that I was on was further up, and because I updated it to a frequency that was above the one I was moving to, it moved the one I was moving to down. So yeah, it should be fairly good when you get used to it. So there we are. There is some work going on in the background to try and get the Vox volume changing when you're on monitor, but I haven't had any luck getting it to work yet, and I'm waiting to hear back from Warren and Lawrence. So yeah, right, yo guys. Well, cheers for joining me on here. Hopefully, it's been somewhat of interest. Look forward to not getting any bug reports. All right, cheers for now. I'm going to shut the stream down. I'll probably put this one up as a recording so that people can have a look in their own time. All right, cheers. 7-3.